It's another beautiful outing with us on the program Law and You, where we take time to deepen knowledge about the laws of the country. And today we're going to be looking at issues about the CBN deadline on retrieval of the old NAIRA notes in the denomination of the 1,000, 500, and of course 200. My name is Philip Omo-Gyupon, the host. And joining me to dissect this, as you always know, we have legal practitioners to look at issues in this regard. I have with me, starting from my immediate left, a seasoned legal practitioner in Greg Iyayi. Good morning, good afternoon, Greg.
Good afternoon, viewers. It's nice to be on this platform with you.
Next to him is another legal practitioner, Emmanuel Obakbolo. Thanks for joining me, Ima.
Good afternoon, Nigerians. Good afternoon, Philip.
Now, let me start with you, Greg. Let's look at this aspect of the CBN deadline on the withdrawal of the retrieval, rather, of the old NAIRA notes. Do you see the CBN governor as having all it takes in terms of the wherewithal, provisionally, the powers to so decide on the deadline? Because this deadline is sending shivers down the spine of Nigerians. Now, does he call the shots, or he shares this power with the president?
Well, the CBN Act, clearly gives certain powers to the CBN governor. And so far, he has not acted outside those powers. This is what we must understand. Does the CBN governor have the right to do what he has done? And then in doing it, has he even gone outside the law? The CBN Act clearly protects him, because what he has done, he has the power to do, and the way he has done it, he has not gone outside the law. So if anyone has any quarrel with it, then you're having a quarrel with the law. And I have a feeling that this idea of waiting to the last minute is what is actually generating a lot of the furor and sentiment. But if we have been following the warning, if we have been following the counsel, the advertisement, the notices put out, I think by now almost everybody would have actually pushed the old notes to his account. While doing that, I think we should learn to comply with stipulations, particularly in things that have deadlines, like what Emefiele has done. So legally speaking, he's protected by the statutes, he's protected by the laws of the land. He has not acted otherwise.
Okay, but at the point where the people are agitated and they are saying that the deadline date is just too much for them to bear, does it not share, or isn't it wise for the president to come in and do the otherwise? Or is it that once the CBN has given such instruction or deadline, the president cannot do otherwise?
The president, so to speak, is his appointer. And being his appointer, he has the right to call him and tell him that he should. But the president cannot so moto make the announcement. He has to call him and he has to tell him. Because let's be clear about this. The powers of the CBN governor are provided for, not by the president, but by the laws of the land. But it's the president that appoints him. And can I make this clear, that even the president cannot so moto sack a CBN governor?
Can what?
Cannot so moto just sack a CBN governor. On his own, they can only suspend. This was the case between Sanusi and Jonathan. Jonathan could only suspend. He cannot just get up and say the CBN governor must be sacked. Why? Because of the CBN Act that regulates the appointment, the removal of a sitting CBN governor. So I think, I also believe that Emefiele has the backing of the president in what he's doing. If not, the president would have, in one way or the other, found a way to sanction him or call him to order.
Let's take a bite on this, Emmanuel Obakbolo. Now, what's your take in this respect of the CBN governor having the power to do just now, in terms of the deadline? Or can the National Assembly also share in this part?
Philip, just like my learned friend said, the laws are express, particularly Section 2, 17 and 18 of the CBN Act 2007 gives the governor of the CBN and the deputy and other executive members to come up with a tender currency for exchange, to develop the economy, to promote the economy, to boost the economy, and all of that, the responsibilities vested on the central bank are listed in these laws. And so, the CBN governor and the central bank has come up with another tender for exchange for Nigerians.
Yes.
And as such, that remains the law. Now, if we are to go by the provisions of Section 8, subsection 5 of the CBN Act 2007, it provides that the CBN governor can inform the president of for the purpose of a tender exchange, and the president gives a nod, an approval to it. And I want to believe that the just now CBN president has done.
Yeah.
Then subsection 4 of that same provision, section 8, subsection 4, provides that the CBN, that the National Assembly, that the CBN rather, can in a semi-annual meetings inform the National Assembly
About these activities?
of the activities of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that he did not do. Then the laws now provide that this National Assembly cannot summon in.
Okay.
If we are to go by the provision of section 62 and section 89 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, provides that the National Assembly via a committee or the House can, by a warrant, summon any person.
Just like what they are recommending now.
Yes. Now, section 20, subsection 3 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007 says that the CBN governor needs to give the president notice of the deadline for the currency tender, just as the man has done. Since October, it was given to Nigerians, and the president has been informed of the tender currency for exchange, and a date was fixed, 31st January 2023 for it. So, and the man is telling you, despite all the outcry, despite all the outbursts, the man is telling you, I am within the provisions of the law. And this is my position.
Yes.
Yes, the National Assembly, just like I said, by virtue of the provision of section 62 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution, has the power to summon, to issue a warrant. The law did not say warrant of arrest. That warrant that is to be issued is to any police officer to bring him to the house.
Not to arrest him.
No.
Okay.
To bring him to the house.
I think is that what you call mandamus?
No, mandamus is a court order to act, to carry on an act, or not to do an act.
Okay.
Are you getting me? To bring him. So, they will hear the National Assembly presents it as if they have powers to arrest the central bank governor and do whatever they want to do with him.
They lack this powers.
That is not true. They don't have the powers. They don't. And I pray and hope that we don't get into another terrible situation in this country. Should they carry out the functions as provided for in section 62 and 89 of the Constitution, wherein they now exercise much powers to themselves, I think Nigerians are going to witness a very terrible situation.
Okay.
However, I have said, even in this platform, Nigeria is a country of fairy tales.
Thank you. Well, let's come to you, Greg Iyayi. Now, we have the National Assembly, the national lawmakers representing Nigerians in their various constituencies and capacities. Now, these lawmakers carry the authority of the people to so act. Now, does the provision not recognize where if the aspirations or the feelings of the people are against a particular decision by the CBN, does the provision not also recognize the National Assembly to so act in order to make an influence on the activities or on the decisions of the CBN?
If they have any powers, such powers are only persuasive. They are not mandatory.
Wow.
And the only mandatory powers are those provided for in the statutes and in the Constitution. You see, we should all know what our power is, and we should also know the limits of that power. And I think this was some members of the National Assembly are failing to recognize. You see, it's like the powers of the AG, Attorney General in the state or federation. They are not powers donated to him by the president or anybody, but they are powers that are given to him by the Constitution. And the only person who can call him to question is his appointer. There are certain public officers like that, the CBN governor, Attorney General, and some others. You cannot just arrogate to yourself some powers in your oversight functions. Because look at the oversight functions. Look at the powers that are given to you to carry them out. And don't go beyond them. Don't try to extend them. And don't try to import the power that you do not have. The CBN governor, yes, can give a report to them. Then, like my learned friend has said, if he refuses to come and give a report to them, they may, either by a resolution, a warrant, whatever, bring him to give a report. And they cannot arrest him. They cannot detain him. They cannot even start the process of removing him. Because
even if the report doesn't sync with the aspirations of the people that they represent.
Yes. Because they should be careful of one thing. You see, I don't want to compare their powers to that of the AG. Where the Supreme Court said, even if the action of the AG is actuated by malice, that it will still stand.
It will stand.
When it was talking about the power of non-prosecute. And I said the only person you can have recourse to is to his appointer, either to remove him, and if he stays, if he says that he stays, he stays.
Because it's a God unto himself.
Because it's a constitutional power.
Just like some are saying that Godwin Emefiele is doing this because he was edged out of the presidential race, and he's trying to use this as a way to fight back.
Malice, yeah.
Now, a tool of malice.
Yeah.
Now, you just said it, that he has the powers of that of the Attorney General, and so he can act in that light.
He has powers similar to that. You see, if you want to remove a CBN governor, the House of Rep doesn't, the Senate and the National Assembly will have to come together and remove him by 2/3 majority. And the process is long and tortuous. Do we have the time for that before election? So I think they should be more amiable and more friendly. If they need any explanation, they should call him, and then as representatives of the people, we want this explained to us so that we know how to communicate with our constituents about the areas that they are aggrieved concerning. Let's look at it. Since October, what have they been doing? Since October, is it now that they are not feeling or they are hearing complaints from their constituents?
Okay, let's stretch it further. You said even if it is seen as malicious,
yes,
that the decision still stands. Looking at the powers of the CBN governor, is that not subject to litigations?
No, it's not subject to litigation because they are backed by the laws.
Because if it's seen as malicious,
No, they are,
it means that the judgment or the decisions is unfair.
it can also be interpreted that it depends on the angle you are looking at it.
Exactly.
Maybe that is why you are seeing it to be malicious. But however, what we are saying is that, first and foremost, the National Assembly, by the rules of the House, also have power to summon any person. But I think at this stage, what they ought to have done was they ought to have lobbied, political lobbying, maybe lobby the CBN governor or lobby the president.
Okay.
To see how they can come up with a result that suits them or that is within their whims and caprices. Because by them acting just now like superstars, I don't think that will help them. But however, the National Assembly has power to have done something, perhaps to reduce the powers
Of the
of the
CBN
CBN governor. They would have made new laws, maybe amend the laws or repeal the act and come with now within 3-4 days. The law gives them that power.
Within 3-4 days?
Yes, the law gives them that power. The law gives them that power. But as it stands now,
But they will need like 2/3 majority. Like it is
yes, that is why I said.
And that is not easy to come.
That is why I said, if you look at
because
it,
that's where the executive will also lobby.
That is why I said they are only pretending to act as if they have the powers. They don't. The powers they have, they will not be able to recognize those powers.
Okay.
Yes. And
They are not trying
them.
to carry out over-function responsibility, oversight responsibility, and that we puncture them.
All right.
Because the CBN governor, I repeat, has acted within the law.
Within the law.
And Philip, come to think of it, why is the president silent? Nobody is asking that. The National Assembly, particularly the House of Rep, they are against the CBN governor. The CBN governor has an appointor. What have they been saying about the appointor?
Exactly.
How many times have they called on the president or visit the president? Why is the CBN governor the target? These are questions begging for answers. So
are you saying that this could be wrapped into political issues?
It is.
An act
Because
of malice.
they look at
An act of what?
Malice.
Okay.
they look at the act of the CBN governor just now as being malicious and be targeted at some person or group of persons.
Yes.
That's what they feel now.
Okay.
So it goes to show that all the drama that we are witnessing now in Nigeria is not for the interest of the people of Nigeria.
All right, thank you. In case you're just joining us, it's Law and You, and we are looking at the CBN deadline as regards the retrieval of the old NAIRA notes in the denomination of 1,500 and of course 200. I've been discussing with vibrant and articulate legal practitioners in the person of Mr. Greg Iyayi, a legal practitioner at that, and of course also with Emmanuel Obakpolo, a custodian of the law in that regard. Now, let's look at the implications, because we've stretched the powers of the CBN.
Yes.
And Greg, you've always said that the appointor, if at all there should be any that could share that power or that could advise or that could look into it, is the appointor. Do you see the implications that could be getting to Nigerians as harsh? Because there are some in the hinterlands that do not have access to banks so easily, you know. Doesn't the law cover this? And how reasonable is the law in looking at such cases?
Well, I may say this, that Emefiele did not just wake up, possibly on the wrong side, and then he said he wanted to redesign the law. Something informed it. And definitely, the mayor himself and the president and some other top functionaries within the administration might be privy to some information that we aren't privy to. And based on that, they must have arrived at a decision. Because I don't think he acted alone. He must have acted in consultation with some other people. He must have also acted in consultation with his appointor. And the appointer must have given him the right nudge to go ahead with whatever he intends to do. And that is why Buhari has not come out to say anything contrary to what Emefiele has not.
He's been quiet.
Yes.
And in the law court, quiet silence is consent.
Is consent.
So this, which shows that he's giving his consent.
Exactly. And he has not done anything to try to sanction him. People should be should look at that issue.
Okay.
And then also, Nigerians should be wary of this idea of always angry and dreaming and thinking, you know, in fantasy that there will be an extension, whether it's a collection of PVC, whether it's a collection of registration for this, that there will be an extension.
But the Nigerian mentality is always like that, and it will not be a surprise if by Sunday night or Monday morning we hear that this extension of the deadline pops up on the news.
Like what I told my congregation as a pastor, go and change your money. If the government extends the deadline, you are not harmed. If they don't, you are safe.
Yeah, you are still within the limit.
Yeah, you are still within the limit. We are talking of October. Since October, at least everyone has had some time.
And if they started early enough, there won't be this mad rush.
No, there won't be this mad rush. And you will just be dreaming that there will be an extension. That there will be an extension. What if it doesn't happen?
But don't you also fault the CBN in not churning out enough notes that will meet circulation?
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you, but I wouldn't like to blame them. Is it that the CBN did not really give enough?
That is why I'm not agreeing.
You see, this is what the elected representatives of the people should be doing. Go and find out. CBN, how much did you give to this bank? How much did you make it public? And then let us know who is actually deceiving who.
Okay.
So it's not just shouting on Emefiele and calling for his head.
Okay, let's take your bite on that.
Well,
because the CBN, to many Nigerians, is not really doing enough.
Well,
in terms of circulating these new notes.
I wouldn't want to agree with that. And looking at the situation, first, I am privy to have this information that the CBN at the first tranche of it printed 1.5 trillion. At a point, the CBN was started quarreling the CEOs of the various banks that released this money to the public, released it to the people. At a point, that goes to tell you that the problem is not really with the CBN, even the banks, and for what reasons is best known to them. So all of this gimmick, all of this drama is to see how some persons want to show that they are fully in charge of the country. Yeah. But the CBN governor has taken his stand to say, no, this is our decision. It is not just my decision. Mind you have the CBN governor, you have deputy governors with him, and you have other executive members of the bank. Then you have the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the president and commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the man is silent. And the National Assembly members, particularly the House of Rep, who just now want to bring down the heavens, like in the words of Oguntade JSC, as he then wants, he said, I will say the truth, even if the heavens will fall. Of course, when the truth is told, the heavens remain in place. So I see the heavens remaining in place because the CBN governor has done absolutely no wrong.
Thank you, Emmanuel Obakolo. Big thanks, Greg Iyayi, for taking our time to be part of this. Well, this is where we call it a close on to this edition of Law and You. Please, we advise quickly get those old notes to the bank as much as you have the opportunity to do so that we can at least have some break over complaints on the deadline. I'm Philip Omo Gupon. Do have a beautiful day ahead of you. Goodbye.